Hi folks, welcome to the Ramble. Doing something a little different with this episode. I went and wrote a story, just a little short story, a bit of political fan fiction, I guess you could call it, and I thought that I would share it with you in this episode, so I hope you enjoy it. It is titled, Donald Trump versus the Justice League. The Batcave was not where Donald Trump expected to be less than a month before accepting the Republican presidential nomination. A short time ago, he had climbed into the back of his limousine to be driven to the airport. From there, he was to have flown home to New York, home to the building he named after himself, home to the place where his campaign for the presidency had begun 1 year before. The limo did not reach the airport. Trump had fallen unconscious a few minutes into the ride, so he was unable to explain how the motorcade had been stopped, nor could he account for how he had been abducted while surrounded by Secret Service protection, nor did he have a guess as to why he had been brought here. He knew only that he was here. He was here, sitting in a black leather chair, in the dark, in the Batcave. And Batman was here too. "What are you doing?" asked Trump. "What are you thinking bringing me here? You just ended your career or whatever you call it, and I hope you know that, okay? You can't do this sort of thing. Not to me. I won't stand for it. When I get out of here, you will wish you never heard my name. I promise you. I promise you. I will hang you out a window by your ridiculous-looking cape, okay? I expect to be released, and I expect an apology, and I will tell you this. Believe me, you will be very sorry for this. Very sorry. I promise you that." "Quiet," Batman said. Donald Trump stopped talking. "You're not here to speak," Batman said. "You're here to listen." And for the next few minutes, listen is what Donald Trump did. Superman folded his arms across his chest. "How did it go?" "It was not a productive meeting," Batman said. He pulled out his chair and took his customary seat at the conference table. He listened at first, then he started to argue. After a couple of minutes, I knocked him unconscious. "With an anesthetic?" asked the Flash. "Of a sort." "What did you tell him before you had to put him to sleep?" Green Lantern asked. "I informed him that under no circumstances would he be permitted to assume the presidency regardless of the outcome of the election," Batman said. "You threatened him," Wonder Woman said. "I explained the situation." "You know we can't prevent him from taking office if he's elected," said Superman. "I don't see why not," said Batman. "Your Phantom Zone projector still works, doesn't it?" "That's not funny," said Superman. "It wasn't meant to be. We can't prevent the lawfully elected president from taking office. It would be illegal." "Pretty much everything we do is illegal," said Green Lantern, "technically speaking." "This would be different," said Wonder Woman. "We operate outside the law, but we act to uphold it." "Exactly," said Superman. "Our role is to help and to protect, not impose our political will." "I'm not talking about politics," Batman said. "I'm talking about stopping a dangerous and ignorant would-be tyrant from becoming a head of state." "So am I," said Superman, "but I'm not willing to disregard the rule of law in order to do it." "Don't worry, Clark," Batman said, rising from his chair. "If it comes to that, you won't have to." "Where are you going?" asked the Flash. "Home. Bruce Wayne is taking Julie Madison to the theater tonight." "Does going on a date really take precedence over this?" asked Superman. "I've got Hamilton tickets," Batman said. "Trump is under guard at my strike base on Englehart Street in Gotham. Do what you like with him." Batman turned and left the room. A few seconds passed in silence. Superman leaned forward, elbows on the table, hands clasped. "Would anyone else like to try?" Wonder Woman pushed her chair out. "I'll see what I can do," she said, standing. "Any queens?" asked Robin. "Nope," said Nightwing. "Go fish." Robin reached forward and drew a card from the deck. "Ugh," he grunted, adding the card to the fan in his hand. "Hey, queens," Nightwing said. He looked behind him at Donald Trump, who was sitting in the chair near the fireplace. "Isn't that where you were born?" "Yes, Jamaica Estates," Trump said. "Can you prove it?" Nightwing asked. "What are you talking about?" Do you have papers? Can I see your birth certificate? Robin shook his head, still looking at his cards. That's such an old joke. Nightwing turned back to Robin. And I suppose you could do better. Maybe I could. Like, I'd offer to deal him in, but I'm afraid he wouldn't be able to hold all the cards in his little hands. Nightwing rolled his eyes. Right, because the tiny hands thing hasn't been beaten to death all summer. Excuse me, Trump said. He stood and took several steps toward them. There is nothing unusual about my hands, understand me? They're the exact size they should be, and the only people who say otherwise are just losers who are desperate for attention, okay? Hey, Nightwing said to Robin, did you hear that Donald here learned sign language so that he could communicate with the deaf people on his campaign staff? Did he? Yep, said Nightwing. Hell of a guy. He even bought them all magnifying glasses so they could tell what he was saying. Robin pondered that for a moment. Not bad, he said. Trump tucked his hands into his armpits and sat back down. A moment later, all three men turned toward the sound of the heavy steel door's latch being operated. The door swung open, and Wonder Woman stepped into the room. I need to have a word with your guest, she said. Help yourself, Nightwing said, gesturing toward Trump. Alone, Wonder Woman said. Nightwing and Robin laid their cards down on the table and started toward the door. Come on, Nightwing said, pausing to allow his partner to exit before him. We'll hit up that Indian place I told you about. Nightwing turned to Wonder Woman. Be careful not to get too close or he'll grab you with his creepy baby hands, he said, then left, pulling the door shut after him. Okay, Trump said, backing away as Wonder Woman advanced deliberately toward him. I've heard about you, and I just think you should know that as president, I will be the best friend women have ever had, I promise you. I love women. I think they're beautiful and amazing. Wonder Woman shoved him down into the chair. I didn't come here to hear your incoherent blathering, she said, her hand moving to the golden lasso that hung from her belt. I came to hear the truth. So what did he say? Asked Green Lantern. He said... Wonder Woman breathed a sigh. He said the same things he always says. He wants to build a wall. It'll be beautiful. You won't believe it. Ban Muslims. Everyone loves him. He resisted the lasso? Asked Superman. No, he was telling the truth. He believes everything he says. She took her seat at the table. He has no center, no principles. He shifts like loose sand. At one point I asked him directly how he planned to defeat ISIL. He just kept assuring me that he knew exactly how to do it, and that it would be easy. He wasn't being evasive. To him, that was a straightforward answer. Superman leaned back in his chair. He drummed his fingers on the table. I'm open to suggestions as to what we should do next, he said. I could use the Speed Force to take him back in time to Nazi Germany, the Flash said. Convincing him that he's on track to become the next Hitler might finally be enough to scare him straight. Or it might only serve to inspire him, said Green Lantern. He turned to Superman. I could find an uninhabited planet with a breathable atmosphere and just drop him off. No, that's no good, Superman said. He thought a moment. But that gives me an idea. He rose from the table and was gone in a blur of red and blue. Does it bother the rest of you when he goes to super speed all gratuitously like that? Flash asked, looking at the others. Because I try not to show off like that. It just seems rude. I don't know. A glowing green arm emerged from Green Lantern's power ring, reached through the door and around the corner into the kitchen, and plucked a can of soda from the refrigerator. I agree, said Green Lantern, popping open the can. Just outrageous. He took a drink. Aquaman chuckled. Green Lantern choked. Holy shit, have you been here the whole time? High Earth orbit was not where Donald Trump expected to be less than a month before accepting the Republican presidential nomination. But here he was, in a pressurized spacesuit, staring through the tinted visor of his helmet at Earth, floating 40,000 miles away in an endless sea of black. What do you see? Asked Superman. Earth, said Trump. It's beautiful. Superman nodded. From up here it is. At this distance, even I have trouble making out the details. The armies, the walls, the rubble of bombed cities, they all just sort of blur out of sight and the planet becomes a single, unified place. "Is that what you brought me here to show me?" Trump asked. "No," Superman said. "That's something else. Look over here." He turned Trump away from Earth and faced him in the opposite direction. The moon was on the far side of the planet at the moment, and the glow from Earth rendered the stars invisible. So when Trump looked, he saw only the infinite, featureless darkness of space. "What do you see now?" asked Superman. "Nothing," said Trump. "Nothing," said Superman. "I want you to hear this, Mr. Trump. The people of Earth are not alone in the universe. There are other intelligent beings on other worlds, some kind and curious, some more vicious than even you can imagine. But they're all light years away. For all practical purposes, you are alone. There is no one else to help you. That blue planet behind you is all you have." "I understand," said Trump. "I wish that you did," said Superman, "but I don't think you do. Not really." Trump braced himself against Superman's shoulder and twisted around to face Earth once again. "No, I do," he said. "Believe me, I get it. Okay? I get it. And I won't forget this. You can bet on it. I won't forget what this looks like when I'm the president. And I'll work hard, and I'll do a good job. I'll be the best president you've ever seen." Superman lowered his head. He let out a weak, exasperated chuckle. "Mr. Trump, you're not going to be the president." Trump's eyes opened wide. "What are you talking about? Are you going to throw me into the sun? Is that it?" "No," Superman said. "I didn't bring you up here to harm you. Earlier, a friend of mine told me he'd be willing to do whatever was necessary to stop you from assuming the presidency. Maybe I'm too much of an optimist, but I have faith that the only thing needed to stop you from becoming president is a general election. The American people are often unwise and short-sighted, but I simply don't believe them capable of an act of self-harm like electing you President of the United States." Trump was visibly annoyed. "Okay, I'm going to say this to you, and I want you to know I mean this with all due respect. I do, but I think you're being very stupid right now, and I don't think you know what you're talking about, all right?" He made an effort to gesticulate as he spoke, but he found manipulating his small hands inside the gloves of his spacesuit extremely difficult. Superman shrugged. "Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. There's a lot I don't know. But then again, there are a few things I do know. For instance, I know there are millions of people living in the United States who are angry and ignorant and afraid. More than anything else, they want someone to blame for all the things they see as being wrong with their country. And you, a man of wealth and fame and influence, choose to exploit their anger and ignorance and fear rather than helping to alleviate it. Instead of standing between the mob and their would-be victims and calling for peace, you chose to lead the mob. And for what? To add to the riches you already had? "You know," Trump said, "I think we just see these issues very differently. You think you're right, I think I'm right, but unfortunately for you, the fact is, I am right, whether you like it or not." "My planet is gone," said Superman. He closed his eyes. "When I was just a baby, it exploded. I can't remember what my planet was like, but I wouldn't be surprised if it had men like you, convincing people to turn against each other, to direct their blame and hatred toward those who were less fortunate or different in some way they decided was unacceptable, diverting attention from the real problems right up to the end." "Well," Trump said, "let me tell you this." "Never mind," said Superman. "Don't say another word." Superman took Trump by the arm. They flew back to Earth. Batman turned toward the sound of Superman's feet touching down on the cave floor. "How did it go?" he asked. "Not productive," Superman said. "I thought if I could show him the world as I see it, let him see what it looks like from far away, how fragile it is, he'd realize how much we depend on each other and something would get through. But that didn't happen." "No," Superman said, placing his hands on his hips, gazing at the floor. "It didn't happen. It was just like Diana said. There's nothing there. There's no ability to see beyond himself. People are just exploitable resources to him." Batman nodded. "Well, if it makes you feel any better, my most recent computer model projects that he'll lose the election in November." "How accurate is that?" asked Superman. "This far from the election, it has a fairly wide margin of error, but it's better than nothing." "I hope it's right. I really do." Superman turned away from Batman. "I should go." "Good night, Clark," said Batman. Superman crouched slightly, as he often did before taking flight. He hesitated a moment. "Bruce, what if we're wrong? What are we going to do if he wins?" "The same thing we always do," said Batman. "Try to help and protect." Superman pushed away from the floor and up into the air. "How was Hamilton, by the way?" "I don't know. Julie seemed to be enjoying it, but I had to make an excuse and leave after the second song. Mr. Freeze took hostages at the Miss Galaxy pageant." "Did you sort it out?" asked Superman. "I always do," said Batman. Superman smiled. "Good night, Bruce," he said, then rose toward the rocky channel in the ceiling of the cave that led up to the surface. Batman watched him until he had disappeared into the black. Hey folks, hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, please like it and share it and subscribe to this channel. And also, please consider helping me to make more videos like this one by supporting this channel through Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/Steve Shives to become a patron. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.